I don't even know where to start. I guess I should begin by saying I grew up in a life most people would envy. Private schools, ski vacations, designer clothes, all of it. But before you start thinking, wow, must be nice, let me tell you, none of it was ever really mine. It was my mom's. My dad? He was the real deal. He grew up with nothing, built a business from the ground up, and made sure we had everything he never did. But my mom, Linda? She wasn't about building anything, she was about spending. And, oh, did she spend. If there was a new designer bag, she had to have it. Exclusive spa retreats? Monthly necessity. She had a group of equally shallow friends who seemed to exist purely to one-up each other. And my dad? He let her do whatever she wanted because he loved her. But love only goes so far when someone's bleeding you dry. She never worked a day in her life. Not because she couldn't, but because she thought working was beneath her. Why work when you have a husband? She used to say, laughing with her friends over $200 brunches. And me? I was raised by nannies. I can count on one hand the number of times she actually did something motherly. Then one day, everything changed. I still remember how my dad looked that morning. He was always up early, drinking his coffee, scrolling through the news on his tablet. He kissed my forehead as I came downstairs. Got a big day today, kiddo? I had finals coming up. He wished me luck. I wished him a good day at work. He never came home. He had a heart attack in his office. Massive. Sudden. By the time the ambulance arrived, it was too late. Just like that, the man who held everything together was gone. My mom fell apart, or so it seemed. At the funeral, she sobbed like a grieving widow straight out of a movie. But behind the scenes, she was already scheming. Dad left the business to her. I was 17. I barely understood what that even meant. But I knew enough to be terrified. My dad had spent years building that company, making smart decisions, treating his employees like family. He'd even left detailed instructions for my mom to follow if anything ever happened to him. Guess what she did? She ignored them. No, actually, ignored is too kind. She set fire to them. In less than a year, she managed to run the business straight into the ground. She fired the people who knew how to run things because they questioned her authority. She drained company funds to keep up her lifestyle, shopping, vacations, luxury hotels. It was like she thought money just magically appeared. And when people tried to warn her, she laughed. I'm rich. We're rich. This company will bounce back. Spoiler, it did not. The lawsuits started rolling in. The debt piled up. One day, we were living in a mansion. The next, we were being escorted out by security because the bank had repossessed it. And just when I thought things couldn't get worse, my mother tried to do the unthinkable. So, where was I? Oh, right, my mother tanked my father's business, burned through our savings, and got our mansion repossessed. You'd think that would be enough chaos for one lifetime. But no, Linda, yes, I started calling her by her first name at this point. Wasn't finished. See, after our house was taken, we ended up in this sad little rental, a far cry from the luxury she was used to. It was a modest 2-bedroom apartment, which meant she and I had to share a bathroom. You'd think she was being exiled the way she carried on about it. This is humiliating, Emily. I am not meant to live like this. I didn't respond. I was too busy trying to figure out how I was going to get through my senior year of high school while my entire world crumbled around me. I had already made up my mind. I needed to get out. College was my one ticket to freedom. Then, one evening, I came home from my shift at the local coffee shop. Yes, unlike Linda, I worked, and I saw her at the dining table, our sad, tiny dining table on the phone with the bank. I should have known. She had been way too calm for the past few days. I stood there, listening, frozen in place. I need access to my daughter's college fund, she was saying, all sweet and fake. I'm the parent, so I should be able to withdraw. Oh, it's in a trust? My stomach dropped. She had no shame. She was actually trying to steal my future. I stormed in before she could do any more damage. Hang up the phone. Linda turned, startled, but quickly recovered with that I'm the mother tone. Excuse me? I said, hang up the phone. She narrowed her eyes, annoyed that I had the audacity to challenge her. I am trying to fix our situation, Emily. No. You're trying to take my money because you ruined yours. She scoffed. It's not your money, it's our money. Your father left it, and I have every right. That's where you're wrong, I snapped. Dad set up that fund so I could go to college. It's in my name. You can't touch it. The woman had the nerve to act offended. Emily, we need this money right now. Do you think I enjoy living like this? Do you think I want to struggle? You're not the one struggling, Linda, I shot back. I'm the one working after school. I'm the one applying for scholarships. I'm the one who actually gives a damn about my future. Her expression hardened. I am your mother, and you will not speak to me like that. You stopped being my mother when you tried to steal from me. I turned and walked to my room, slamming the door so hard I was surprised it didn't break off its hinges. I knew right then and there, I needed to leave. The next few months were a battle. Linda didn't take rejection well. She sulked, guilt-tripped, and threw every manipulative tactic she could think of my way. You're abandoning me. After everything I've done for you, you treat me like this? I guess money means more to you than family. I ignored her. I doubled down on my studies. I pulled extra shifts. I saved every penny I could because I knew, deep down, that if I didn't get out fast, she would find a way to trap me. Then, the acceptance letters came in. I got into multiple colleges, but I chose one that was out of state. When I told Linda, she lost her mind. You can't just leave me here. I need you. No, I said, packing my suitcase, you need a reality check. You are so selfish, she screamed. I have no one. I looked her dead in the eye and said, whose fault is that? I left that night. College was the breath of fresh air I needed. For the first time in my life, I was surrounded by people who earned their success. Who worked hard. Who weren't obsessed with status or designer labels. It was weird at first. I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, for someone to pull the rug out from under me like Linda always did. But it never happened. I worked my ass off. Between classes and part-time jobs, I had little time for anything else. But I liked that. It kept me focused. It kept me away from Linda. Speaking of Linda, she didn't take my independence well. At first, she called constantly, leaving voicemails about how lonely she was. How ungrateful I was. How she was struggling and needed just a little help. Then, when I didn't cave, she got desperate. One day, I got a call from my college's financial aid office. Hi Emily, your mother just contacted us, claiming she's responsible for your tuition payments. She wanted access to your account. I nearly dropped my phone. She what? She said she needed to handle your finances and requested to transfer your college fund to her personal account. I wanted to scream. I told the office everything. How she had no control over my money, how she was not to be trusted, how I wanted every security measure possible in place. They agreed. And I blocked Linda's number. For 4 years, I kept my distance. No calls. No visits. Just the occasional text from her, always dripping with passive aggression. I hope you're enjoying college while I suffer alone. It must be nice to be able to afford things when your own mother is barely getting by. I never responded. I was too busy building something real, something she could never take from me. I was free. Or at least, I thought I was. For years later, after I had built my career and was finally ready to move forward, I made one mistake. I reached out. After 4 years of silence, I thought maybe, just maybe, my mother had changed. Spoiler, she hadn't. I had spent those 4 years grinding. I worked part-time jobs, pulled all-nighters, and made every dollar stretch as far as humanly possible. I didn't just survive college, I thrived. By my senior year, I had landed a paid internship that turned into a full-time job offer before I even graduated. For the first time in my life, I had stability. I had built something on my own. And yet, like an idiot, I thought, maybe I should reach out to my mom. Maybe she's different now. I don't know what I was expecting. Some kind of heartfelt apology? Hey, I was a terrible mother, but I'm working on myself? Nope. I texted her, just a simple hey, I hope you're doing well, and the response I got back? Oh, so you finally remembered you have a mother. I should have known right then and there to block her again and move on. But against my better judgment, I let her back in. At first, things seemed okay. We started texting every now and then, just surface-level stuff. She asked how my job was going, what city I was in, if I was dating anyone. I kept things light because I wasn't about to get sucked into her woe-is-me routine again. For the first couple of months, she actually seemed normal. Then, one night, I got a call from her. "Emily, sweetie," she said, her voice syrupy sweet. I was thinking, now that you're all successful and doing so well for yourself, maybe you could help your dear mother out. There it was. I sighed. Help you out how? Well, she said, stretching the word like taffy, this apartment is just so expensive, and it's hard, you know, keeping up with bills all on my own. I glanced at the clock. Less than 2 months of contact, and here we were. I can't help you with rent, Mom. She gasped like I had just slapped her. Excuse me? I just started my career. I have student loans, my own bills. But I'm your mother, she cut in sharply. I took care of you for 18 years. You owe me. I closed my eyes, counting to 3. No, Linda. I don't owe you anything. Her voice turned cold. I see. So this is how you treat family. I bit my tongue so hard I could taste blood. After that phone call, the manipulation went into full effect. She'd text me at random times with messages like, "I guess I raised a selfish daughter. It must be nice to forget about the woman who brought you into this world. I bet if your father were here, he'd be ashamed of how you turned out." That last one nearly broke me. She knew how to get under my skin. She knew my father had been the only real parent I had, and she weaponized his memory to make me feel guilty. For a moment, a very brief moment, I almost caved. But then I reminded myself. Where was she when I was working double shifts just to afford textbooks? Where was she when I had to take out loans because she tried to steal my college fund? Where was she when I needed her? That's right. Nowhere. So, I did something that shocked even me. I ignored her. I stopped responding to her guilt-tripping texts. I declined her calls. I refused to engage. That's when she changed tactics. A few weeks later, I got a call from an unknown number. I usually don't answer those, but I was expecting a callback from a recruiter, so I picked up. Big mistake. Emily? It was my aunt. My mother's older sister. "Hey, Aunt Michelle," I said cautiously. She sighed. "Emily, your mother is struggling. She called me in tears the other night, saying you won't even speak to her." I clenched my jaw. "Did she also tell you why?" Michelle hesitated. "She just said you've changed. That success has made you cold." I let out a bitter laugh. "Success didn't make me cold, Aunt Michelle. My mother did." I told her everything. The college fund. The manipulation. The entitlement. The constant attempts to leech off me. By the time I finished, there was a long silence. "I didn't know," Michelle said softly. "She always made it sound like you just abandoned her." "Of course, she did." Michelle sighed. "I won't pressure you, sweetheart. But she is your mother." I bit my lip, so tempted to scream, "Yeah, well, she should have acted like one." Instead, I just said, "Thanks for calling, Aunt Michelle. But I think it's best if I keep my distance." A month passed. Things were blissfully quiet. Then, one night, I got a Venmo request from Linda H. $500 for groceries and bills, since you won't help me any other way. I snapped. I called her, fury coursing through me. "Are you kidding me, Linda? You really think you can just send me a bill like I'm your personal ATM?" She scoffed. "It's the least you could do." "You know what? You're right." She went silent, probably shocked that I agreed. Then I continued. "The least I can do is block you." And I did. Right then and there. I blocked her on everything. Phone. Social media. Venmo. Everything. I was done. And for the first time in my life, I felt free. Or at least, I thought I was free. Because 4 years later, after I was finally settled in my career and thriving, I made another mistake. I tried to rebuild a relationship. And that led to the biggest betrayal of all. Cutting Linda off was one of the best decisions I had ever made. For the first time in my life, I wasn't walking on eggshells, waiting for her next guilt trip, her next demand, her next attempt to wring money out of me like I was a human ATM. I focused on me. I moved to a new city. I got promoted. I made real friends, people who actually cared about me instead of what I could do for them. I started therapy and unpacked years of emotional baggage that Linda had dumped on me. And for 4 blissful years, she was nothing but a ghost. Then I made the mistake of thinking she had changed. It started with a text. Linda, hi, Emily. I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from, but I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I know I wasn't the best mom to you. I miss you. I hope you're happy. I stared at that message for a long time. I wasn't stupid, I knew how manipulative she could be. But this was different. She wasn't demanding anything. She wasn't blaming me. She was just apologizing. I didn't respond right away. I sat with it. I showed it to my therapist, who asked, "What do you want to do?" And honestly, I wanted to believe her. So, cautiously, I texted back. I appreciate the apology. I hope you're doing well too. A few hours later, she responded. Linda, I'd love to see you sometime. No pressure. Just whenever you're ready. And against my better judgment, I agreed. We met for lunch at a small cafe. I chose a cheap, no-frills place on purpose. I wanted to see if she'd complain. She didn't. She looked different. Older. Tired. The woman who once draped herself in designer brands now wore a simple sweater and jeans. Her nails weren't manicured, her hair wasn't professionally done. For the first time, she looked normal. Wow, she said when she saw me. You look so grown up. I didn't know what to say to that. So I just nodded. Thanks. We ordered. She didn't ask me to pay. And then she said something that almost made me believe she had changed. I know I was a terrible mother. I froze. I hadn't expected her to say it. I was selfish. I was materialistic. And I didn't treat you the way you deserved. I put my fork down, watching her carefully. Why are you telling me this now? She sighed, stirring her tea. Because I don't want to spend the rest of my life pretending I was a good mom when I wasn't. I lost my daughter because of my own actions. I get that now. For the first time in my life, I heard her take accountability. And that was all I ever wanted. So, stupidly, I let her back in. For the next few months, I saw Linda on my terms. We had lunch or dinner once a month, modest places, nothing extravagant. We kept things light. I didn't let her into my personal life too much. She didn't ask for money, didn't guilt-trip me, didn't try to insert herself where she didn't belong. It was nice. And for the first time, I thought, maybe we can actually have a normal relationship. She still wasn't doing great financially. She had a small apartment, worked an admin job, and was barely scraping by. So, after a few months of seeing her actually try to be a decent person, I made a decision. I told her I'd help with essentials, nothing extravagant, nothing more than what she needed to get by. I covered a few utility bills. I paid for an occasional grocery run. And, every once in a while, I took her out to eat. I told her this wasn't going to be a full-time thing. I wasn't supporting her. I was just helping. And at first, she seemed to respect those boundaries. Until her 50th birthday. Linda had been talking about turning 50 for months. But I made it clear, Mom, I'll take you out for dinner. Just us. Nothing fancy, okay? She agreed. Or so I thought. The night of her birthday, I arrived at the restaurant she had chosen. And the second I stepped inside, my stomach dropped. Because it wasn't a quiet dinner. It was a full-blown party. There were at least 50 people there, extended family, her old friends, even some of my coworkers, which was weird because I had never told her about them. I barely had time to process it before a waiter came up to me and whispered, "Miss, will you be covering the bill now or at the end of the night?" I blinked. "Excuse me?" "The tab. Your mother said you would be paying." I felt the world tilt. Linda was at the center of the room, laughing, drinking champagne, acting like she was some queen being honored. And everyone was looking at me like I was some generous, doting daughter who had planned this extravagant party. I took a deep breath and walked straight up to her. "Mom," I said, forcing a smile. "Can I talk to you for a second?" She turned, all fake surprise. "Oh, sweetie, isn't this amazing?" "Yeah," I said through gritted teeth. "Who's paying for this?" Her smile faltered. "Well, you are." I swear I saw red. I lowered my voice. "I agreed to a small dinner. Not this." She waved a hand. "Oh, come on, Emily. You're successful. You can afford it." Oh, that was what this was about. She had played the long game. She had waited until I trusted her again. And then she did what she always did. She used me. I took a deep breath, turned to the waiter, and said, loud enough for the entire room to hear, "I'll be paying for my meal. The rest? That's on her." Linda's face went pale. The silence was deafening. The silence after I said those words? Glorious. For a second, I thought maybe, just maybe, she'd take responsibility. Maybe she'd laugh it off, claim it was all a misunderstanding, and pull out a credit card to cover her own mess. But no. Linda blinked at me like I had just spoken in another language. "Emily," she said, forcing a smile, "you're joking, right?" I crossed my arms. "Does it look like I'm joking?" The waiter, bless his soul, just stood there awkwardly, waiting for confirmation. The entire restaurant was watching, her friends, our distant relatives, my coworkers who I still had no idea how she'd managed to invite. Then, she snapped. "Emily, don't embarrass me," she hissed, her smile frozen in place. "This is my birthday." "Yeah? And whose money were you planning to use to celebrate it?" I shot back. Her eye twitched. "You're successful now. You can afford it." There it was. That entitlement. That absolute certainty that my hard-earned success was somehow hers. I turned back to the waiter and said, loud and clear, "I'll take the bill for my meal." Nothing else. Gasps. Actual gasps from around the room. Linda looked panicked. "Oh, come on, Em. It's just dinner. You're making a scene." "No," I cut her off. "You made a scene the moment you lied to everyone and told them I was paying for this." Her voice rose. "I raised you." I laughed. Actually laughed. "Oh, did you?" Because last I checked, I raised myself. A few of our relatives started whispering to each other. Some of Linda's so-called friends were shifting uncomfortably in their seats. I turned on my heel and walked straight to the front desk. The manager had been hovering, clearly aware that a disaster was unfolding in the middle of his restaurant. "Can I settle my bill now?" I asked. He gave me a look, one of those this is gonna be messy looks, but nodded. "Of course." I paid for my one meal. Left a generous tip because the staff sure as hell didn't deserve to deal with my mother's bullshit. Then, just as I was about to walk out the door, I heard it. "You're abandoning me, just like your father did." "Oh, hell no." I turned back. "You think Dad abandoned you?" I said, voice steady. "Or did you just drive him into the ground with your greed like you tried to do to me?" Her face crumbled. I walked out. Linda did not handle this well. Within an hour, my phone was blowing up with angry texts. Not just from her own no. She had called in the flying monkeys. My aunt. "Emily, what the hell happened? Your mother is in tears." A random cousin I hadn't spoken to in years. Wow, money really changed you, huh? Couldn't even cover dinner for family? A former nanny, yes, she even got a former nanny involved. "Emily, your mother gave you everything. This is how you repay her?" I didn't reply to any of them. I just blocked numbers left and right. But Linda? Oh, she was just getting started. By the next morning, she had written a massive Facebook post. Something along the lines of, "Some people forget where they come from. Some people, despite being raised with love, turn their backs on their own mothers." I never thought I'd see the day where my own daughter would publicly humiliate me, leave me stranded with a massive bill, and walk away like a cold-hearted stranger. I am heartbroken. I don't even know what to do anymore. I guess some children just don't know how to love. And would you believe it? The comments were filled with sympathy. "Oh, Linda, I'm so sorry. You don't deserve this. You're such a wonderful person." I can't believe Emily would do that. And my personal favorite. Children these days have no respect for their parents. After all you did for her. I stared at my screen in disbelief. Did she really think I was just going to let her rewrite history like that? Game on, Linda. I didn't argue in the comments. That's what she wanted, a public fight where she could play the victim and make me look like the villain. No, I had a better idea. I sent one message. To everyone who had texted me, left comments, or otherwise gotten involved in my mother's pity party. Me. Hey everyone, since there seems to be some confusion, here are the facts. Linda planned a massive birthday party and told everyone I was covering the bill without my knowledge or consent. When I refused to pay for her extravagant dinner, she tried to guilt-trip me in front of 50 people. She has a history of financial irresponsibility, including trying to steal my college fund when I was 17. I have been financially supporting her for months, covering bills, groceries, etc. This was my one boundary. No extravagant spending. She crossed that boundary, so I left. If anyone still thinks I'm the bad guy, feel free to cover Linda's next luxury dinner yourself. I hit send. Then I turned off my phone. When I checked it again a few hours later, the silence was deafening. Aunt Michelle? Seen at 3:47 p.m. No response. The cousin? Left the group chat. The former nanny? Deleted her comment. As for Linda? She deleted her Facebook post. I'd love to say that was the last I ever heard from her, but it wasn't. She still tried, she tried, to weasel her way back into my life. First, she tried love bombing. Linda, sweetie, I'm so sorry. I wasn't thinking, can we just put this behind us? Then, when that didn't work, she switched to anger. Linda, you're so cruel. Do you even have a heart? And when that didn't work, Linda, I'm being evicted. I have nowhere to go. Please, Emily. You can't just leave me like this. That one almost got me. Almost. But then I remembered. This was the same woman who had tried to steal my future. So I responded with the last text I would ever send her. Me, I'm not your safety net, Linda. Good luck. Then, I blocked her. For good this time. And guess what? She survived. Because when people like Linda lose their favorite cash cow, they don't actually sink. They just find their next victim. And I finally found peace. But the drama wasn't quite over yet. Because Linda had one last trick up her sleeve. I really thought I was free. I had cut Linda off. Blocked her on everything. Stopped responding to the flying monkeys. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I could breathe. No guilt. No manipulative texts. No sudden Venmo requests. Just peace. But, as it turns out, peace was temporary, because Linda wasn't done with me yet. It had been 6 months since the disastrous birthday dinner. I had settled back into my normal life, work was going great, and I was honestly feeling good. Then, one day, I got a text. Not from Linda. From Aunt Michelle. Aunt Michelle, Emily, you need to call your mother. She's in serious trouble. I stared at the message for a long moment before typing back. Me, I don't have a mother. Hope she figures it out. I expected that to be the end of it. It wasn't. Less than an hour later, my work phone rang. I frowned. Almost no one had this number. It was strictly for professional contacts. But when I picked it up, Emily, Linda's voice came through, thick with fake tears. Oh, thank God. I didn't know how else to reach you. I was so stunned that I actually sat there for a moment, phone pressed to my ear, speechless. She must have taken my silence as permission to keep going, because she immediately launched into her sob story. Sweetie, I made a mistake. A big mistake. I stayed silent. She sniffled dramatically. I thought I could handle everything on my own, but I can't. I got evicted. They kicked me out last week. I have nowhere to go. There it was. I should have hung up right then and there. But against my better judgment, I asked, and what do you expect me to do about it? She let out a little gasp, like she was shocked by my cruelty. Emily, I'm your mother. I thought maybe I could stay with you for a little while. Just until I get back on my feet. I actually laughed. Stay with me? In what universe would that ever happen? Please, Emily, she whined. It's just temporary. I promise. Just until I find a new place. I shook my head, even though she couldn't see me. Linda, you don't want a new place. You want a new meal ticket. And I'm not it. She sobbed. Not real crying, mind you. Performance crying. You're heartless, she wailed. After everything I did for you, you're going to leave your own mother homeless? I rolled my eyes so hard I thought they'd get stuck. You had plenty of chances, I said, voice firm. You had my help. You had my support. And you abused it. So, no, Linda, you're not staying with me. She dropped the fake tears immediately. You think you're better than me, don't you? She snapped. Just because you have money now? I don't think I'm better than you, I said. But I know I'm smarter than you. And then I hung up. For a few weeks after that, I expected something. A dramatic email. Another Facebook post. Some grand finale where she'd go nuclear and try to drag my name through the mud. But she didn't. It was silent. Until one day, I got the call. Not from Linda. Not from Aunt Michelle. From my bank. Hi, Miss Carter, the rep said. We just wanted to confirm a recent account access request before proceeding. I frowned. What request? There was a pause. A woman claiming to be your mother called in, saying she needed emergency access to your account due to a family crisis. She provided some of your personal details and requested a withdrawal. I nearly dropped my phone. She what? We flagged the request since she's not listed on the account, the rep continued. But we wanted to check with you directly before closing the inquiry. I took a deep breath, seething. Yeah, go ahead and close that, I said. And while you're at it, put a security lock on my account. No one, not my mother, not anyone, should have access besides me. The rep agreed. I hung up, hands shaking. Linda had actually tried to steal from me again. She had learned nothing. I blocked her one last time. And that was the final straw. It's been 2 years since that happened. Linda? She moved on. She found some new guy to mooch off of, some retired businessman, apparently. Aunt Michelle says she latched onto him like a parasite and now pretends to be a grieving widow even though he's still alive. Honestly? I don't care. She's not my problem anymore. As for me, I've never been happier. No guilt. No manipulation. No waking up to texts demanding money. I'm free. But the funniest part? Linda still doesn't know what's coming. Because, even though I blocked her, there's one last thing she forgot about. And it's about to bite her in the ass. For 2 years, I heard nothing from Linda. It was bliss. No manipulative texts. No surprise Venmo requests. No, woe is me, Facebook rants tagging half the family. I had cut her off, moved on, and built a life that was truly mine. But Linda? She forgot one very important detail. And when it finally caught up to her, it was beautiful. I was sitting in my office, going through emails, when my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize. Normally, I'd let it go to voicemail. But something in my gut told me to pick up. Hello? Is this Emily Carter? A formal voice asked. Yes. This is Daniel Green from Carter and Associates. We're handling the estate of the late James Carter. I sat up so fast I nearly knocked over my coffee. Wait. My dad's estate? Yes, the lawyer confirmed. I've been trying to reach you for some time, but it seems your contact information changed. I frowned. What's this about? There was a pause then. It's about a trust fund. Now, here's something Linda never knew, something I had only learned years later when I went digging. Before my dad passed away, he had set up a secondary trust fund. This one wasn't for my college. It was for me, as an adult. It was meant to be a safety net in case anything ever happened, something to ensure I had financial stability no matter what. But the catch? I wasn't allowed to access it until I turned 30. And guess what? I had just turned 30. I met with the lawyer the next day. And that's when I learned the best part. After my father's death, Linda had been named the temporary trustee, meaning she could manage the money but not withdraw from it. She thought she controlled everything. She thought she could bleed me dry and then move on with her life. But what she didn't realize was that the trust had strict conditions. If at any point she attempted to access the money for personal gain, she would be permanently removed as trustee. And the lawyer? Oh, he had receipts, bank statements, email requests, even a recorded phone call where Linda tried to liquidate part of the trust under the excuse of handling Emily's expenses. This, the lawyer said, sliding a document across the table, is the official ruling. Your mother was formally removed as trustee over a year ago. I stared at the paper, my heart pounding. I had assumed Linda was done trying to steal from me. But even after everything, even after I cut her off, she was still trying to get her hands on my father's money. And she failed. So, what happens now? I asked. The lawyer gave a small smile. Well, Miss Carter, he said, as of today, the entire trust is yours. And just like that, I inherited every last cent. It wasn't an insane amount, nothing that would make me a billionaire overnight, but it was more than enough. Enough to pay off the last of my student loans. Enough to buy a house outright. Enough to secure my future in ways my mother had never intended for me. And Linda? She got nothing. Not a single penny. I don't know how she found out. Maybe one of her old lawyer contacts tipped her off. Maybe Aunt Michelle let something slip. But 2 days after I claimed the trust, I got an email from her. The subject line? We need to talk. I almost deleted it. But curiosity got the better of me. I opened it. Linda, Emily, I just heard about the trust. I think there's been some misunderstanding. We need to meet. I laughed out loud. A misunderstanding? Yeah, Linda, the misunderstanding is that you thought you could steal my future and get away with it. I didn't reply. She emailed again. And again. Then came the voicemails. She went from sweet, honey, I just want to clear things up, to guilt-tripping, I'm your mother. How could you do this to me? To full-blown rage, you owe me, Emily. If IT weren't for me, you wouldn't have anything. That last one? I saved it. Because something told me she wasn't done yet. A week later, Aunt Michelle called me. Emily, your mother's losing it. I shrugged. Not my problem. She's saying you stole from her. That you tricked her out of the trust. I laughed. Tricked her? Michelle, she was removed because she kept trying to steal from me. I know, Michelle sighed. I told her that. But she's telling anyone who'll listen that you scammed her out of her rightful inheritance. I rolled my eyes. Typical Linda. Desperate. Bitter. Scrambling to make herself the victim after a lifetime of selfishness. She can tell whatever story she wants, I said. Doesn't change the truth. A pause. Then, you're really not going to talk to her again, are you? No, I said simply. I'm not. And I meant it. I was done. It's been a year since that final call. Linda still lives with her latest victim, some poor guy who probably has no idea what he's gotten himself into. She still tells sob stories to anyone who will listen. But me? I bought my first house. I paid off every single debt in my name. I put the rest of the trust money into investments, smart, strategic ones. And most importantly, I've never been happier. Linda once told me that family always comes first. But the truth is, not all family deserves a place in your life. And sometimes, the best thing you can do is walk away and never look back.